Let me start by saying I cannot tell you how excited I am to see each and every one of you right here in the city of Houston. It means a great deal, not just to this city, but it means a great deal in terms of fostering a greater relationship and a more in-depth relationship between Africa and United States energy companies, which is something that resonates very deeply with me and something that I wanted to see happen, especially while being mayor of the city of Houston. So your presence here today, your excellencies, ministers of energy, ambassadors, the executives from our energy companies, I can't tell you how much it means, and I'm looking forward to the conversations that we will be having over the next 2 days. I do want to acknowledge some additional people before I get started in some brief remarks, and that is some additional elected officials who are here as a part of this host committee. From the City Council, I'm the mayor, but I have 16 other partners, which I consider to be City Council members. They are partners as long as they're voting with me, you know. So I have 16 other partners. Some of them are represented here today. My Vice Mayor Pro Tem for the City of Houston is Vice Mayor Pro Tem Martha Castek Tatum. Vice Mayor Pro Tem Castek Tatum just returned from her visit to Cameroon, and so I appreciate her presence here today. And then another one of my council members here today is Council Member Tiffany Thomas. And Councilmember Tiffany Thomas also happens to be a professor at Prairie View A&M University as well. And then someone who has been to Africa countless times as a state senator, as a former member of the Houston City Council, as a commissioner on the Harris County Commissioner's Court, very familiar with Africa and visited probably many, if not most, of the countries in Africa, and that is Commissioner Rodney Ellis. I want to thank everyone here for accepting my invitation to join this roundtable discussion. This is an important event, one that showcases the position of Houston as the energy capital of the world and a global leader to help build opportunity to support Africa's growth. The population of Africa is right about 1.4 billion people, and this population is expected to grow to 2.5 billion people by 2050. Of this 1.4 billion people, an estimated 600 million, nearly half of Africa's population, lack access to electricity, and 900 million lack access to clear cooking solutions. And as Africa continues to grow, so too will be the energy demand of the industrializing and modernizing societies across the continent. Estimates put consumption growth at 10 to 30%, more than any other continent in the world. But energy supply greatly lags the growing demand. And per the IEA, extending national grids is the least costly and most prudent option for almost 45% of those gaining access by 2030. In rural areas where over 80% of the electricity deprived live, many grids and standalone systems, mostly solar-based, are the most viable solutions. Additionally, Africa contributes less than 3% of total carbon emissions, yet continues to have robust deposits of oil and gas that can help meet some of this domestic need. If we believe in equitable economic development, and I want to underscore equitable economic development, where development is a win-win and not a win-lose, where what we do is a win for Africa and it's a win for our energy companies as well, then it is important for us to have these very important dialogues. And these numbers highlight that it will take all forms of energy to meet Africa's energy challenges. And I want to underscore all forms of energy, which is why I have invited you all here today. Houston is the energy capital of the world, and I cannot tell you how proud I am of the energy companies, especially those who are principally located in the city of Houston, but those who are doing business in our city. We would not be the great city that we are today without the energy companies and what they have brought to this city. From the very first time when oil and gas was discovered back in 1901, this city has been built on the energy sector. We would not have the medical center without the energy sector and all of the other accomplishments that we have made. So I'm very, very proud of the energy sector and what they have done. And even as we talk about energy transition, the reality is in Houston, the energy companies have always been a part of innovation and evolving to meet the needs of our growing demands. Houston is the energy capital of the world, and not just oil and gas, but the full spectrum of energy. Yes, Houston is the home of America's fossil fuel industry, where an estimated 40% of Houston jobs are in upstream, midstream, refining, and petrochemicals. But we are not just the fossil industry. We are leading the energy transition as well. And we are leading innovation with solar, wind, hydrogen, carbon capture and storage, and building for a low emission future. And this is why we think this is the right place for this conversation, because we need to meet this challenge while remaining mindful of our commitments to equitable economic development, as well as leading in climate action. This roundtable today and this summit will not have all the answers, but my goal is to bring all sides to the table, to have the necessary discussions, to bring people together, and to build relationships, and to challenge you to all to find these opportunities. This challenges both our African dignitaries and our Houston companies. And lastly, I will say this. In the many times that I visited Africa, I've seen a lot of other people investing on the African continent. I've seen people from China and other places investing on the African continent. And I've always walked away saying, why aren't American companies doing more? I've always said that. And being the mayor of this city for the last 7 years and serving as president of the African American mayors, that question still lingers. And I decided, instead of just asking the question, maybe it was time to do something about providing the answer. And so, in talking to the ambassador on many, many occasions, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, we started Africa Day in the city of Houston. And initially, that day started across the street at City Hall with about 150 people. Over those 5 years, Africa Day has expanded and gotten much, much larger. And then the idea came up, with this being the energy capital of the world, why don't we have a conversation and invite the head of states or the ministers of energy or the ambassadors of the African countries to Houston and invite many of our energy executives to the table as well. And let's have a conversation on how we can create a relationship that's positive and equitable and one that's a win-win. And if you allow me to say this, I said it doesn't have to be in New York, and it doesn't have to be in DC, but it can be right here in the energy capital of the world. So my hope is, at the end of this conversation, we can find ways where we can create win-win avenues to do greater investments in Africa and work out a more meaningful solution. And so with that said, and let me, on your table, there's a little token of appreciation that we've given to everyone. It's something new that we have created just for this conference. It's a medallion with the City of Houston logo on it. It is for all of you, as well as the energy execs as well. And to the extent we come up with something productive and it works, then you can keep it. But if not, please return it. My hope is at the end, you all will keep it. Having said that, let me now turn to one of our biggest partners who has helped in so many ways in moving things forward in this city, one of our leading companies in this city, and that is Chevron. And let me introduce Rick Kennedy from Chevron to provide some additional opening remarks.